everybody. We have a great guest today. You're probably going to recognize who this person is, but we're extremely excited. Today's podcast is going to be hosted on our YouTube channel, Glass Guys. And without further ado, we'd like to introduce Ms. Krista Fogelsong.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
I am so excited that you're here because Jay and I, over the last 5 years, have gotten into the social media and we've paid a lot more attention to on-air personalities more than I have in the past, just because now we're into this space. And I always enjoyed watching you and listening to you in particular. I think your voice is extremely captivating.
Thank you.
And I know that that's a skill set, because we're in business, we're in sales, that a lot of people, I don't think, pay that much attention to. You could be really surprised what you can get away with saying or asking just with certain deference and tone. And yours is just, it's perfect.
Well, thank you. I think when I have my news voice on, my friends at work say that, oh, you got your news voice on now. I talk a little bit differently than I would with just my normal voice, but I think when you can try to integrate it together to make one voice, I suppose, it sounds better. But yeah, I never liked my voice.
On a recent post, though, doing the real estate, and the camera shot was kind of coming down, and it almost looked like you had that investigative reporter voice going on, and I couldn't help but want to watch. I'm like, what's she going to talk about?
Yeah.
And that trick was just to make me look thinner. But
I'm going to have to try that.
The higher the camera, the thinner you look.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but I'm glad you watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good.
Is that something they teach you in journalism school, like certain tones and deference?
No, they did not at all. In fact, I think I wanted to sound more newsy, and so I think I would listen to a lot of newscasters back in the day. And a lot of the women had that lower voice, and so I would try to lower my voice. And then as news progressed, people wanted you to be more authentic to your normal self, but still have some sense of authority in your voice. So you kind of, like I said, you kind of combine the two to make it sound like you, not fakey, not this low voice, but also if you're out on the street. In fact, a lot of times I'll be at Publix with a baseball hat on or something, and I'm thinking I'm all incognito, and the clerk will say, "Oh, I recognize your voice," and that was really surprising to me.
Oh yeah, not to me. It sticks out to me. I've always envied. I never really liked my voice until the last couple of years. I got comfortable with listening to it, but I always enjoyed listening to others.
Right.
And there's just some people have a voice that really just resonates with me, and yours is one of them.
Well, yours is very unique, and I think that's the key is to be different these days, especially. I think, back in the day, I wanted to sound like all the other newscasters, but if you have a little bit of a different voice, people are going to remember you that way, So I think that's, as you guys have probably learned in social media, doing all this stuff, you do not have to be perfect. In fact, perfect people will just scroll past you. But if you're different and just a little more unique, then they'll pay attention.
Absolutely, and consistent.
That's really how we've gotten by.
Can you step us through how you even got into, we know you're originally from South Dakota?
And Montana. I grew up in Montana.
Oh, really?
Wow.
I grew up in Montana, the eastern side. I always say the ugly side. Sorry, Baker, for anyone who's from there.
Oh, okay.
But it was very flat, and it's right by North Dakota and South Dakota, right on 12 miles away from the line. So you could split Montana in half, and half of it's flat and kind of barren, very cattle country, and then the other half is what people think of Montana, Yellowstone and everything like that. And so I grew up there, a town of like 1,500 people. We never locked our doors. Everybody knew everybody, and just a nice place to grow up. I'm very, very thankful I grew up there. And then my junior year of high school, my parents moved to South Dakota, which it's the tri-state area, so it's kind of like going from Fort Myers to Naples, back and forth. You're just traveling that area all the time, even though it's a few hours away. It's just, you have to go there to go to the mall or whatever. That's just what you do. So it wasn't very far from me. And so we moved to South Dakota, graduated high school there, but I did not know what I wanted to do after I got out of high school. And a lot of people were going to be teachers and things like that in college, and it just didn't sound good to me. So a lot of kids, girls my age, were going to be nannies in New York. And so I decided to be a nanny. And I went to New York, and I was actually, this is kind of funny. I ended up near Philadelphia in New Jersey. There's a little town there. I forgot even what the name of it was, but it was outside of Philadelphia. And I was so excited to just go. So I agreed to this job that was, I think it was $125 a week. And I was sharing a room with a 3-year-old. Now I committed to a year. But I wasn't thinking. And I only had Monday and half of Tuesday off. So I didn't even get the weekends, but I was just wanting to get out and do something crazy. So within 24 hours, I realized I made a big mistake.
You're like, oh.
Yeah.
Shit.
And the agency called me and they said, how are you doing? And I go, fine. And they said, you don't sound fine. And right then I realized maybe I can get out of this, And so I said, no, I'm not fine at all. I said I was homesick, which wasn't true, but I just need to get out of there. And so within like 48 hours, I was already on a plane back to South Dakota. and then I had met through another agent. It was another agency where it was a nanny and the woman that she had worked for, they decided to start a nanny agency. And so what they did, because they were just getting started, they said, why don't we just front you the ticket? You come out here and live in our house, and then you can meet people in person. That way you can find out if it's a real good fit for you or not. And so I flew out there, and this is another, I'm telling lots of stories.
Yeah, please.
The day I got there, it was like 10:30 at night. And, I'm from the Dakotas in Montana thinking, okay, I'll get in and go to bed. Well, the nanny picked me up at the airport. She goes, oh no, we're going to go out, because people don't even go out till after midnight in Long Island. And so she took me back to the house, dressed me like a hooker, basically, because it was the 80s, late 80s, And so we went to this club called Spit Rocks. So it's in Levittown, New York. So anyone who's from there knows that place. Spit, she called it. She goes, we're going to Spit. And I'm like, what? We're going to Spit? And so, and from then it was just a blast. I had so much fun. I found a family. I lived with them. They weren't rich. They just had 4 kids and needed someone to take care of their kids. So I lived with them. And I ended up staying for 2 years. And, I worked at Blockbuster Video on the side. And I'd go in the city after I was done with work and just had the time of my life. It was great.
For a year, you did this?
2 years.
2 years.
And then I went, so I was supposed to tell you how I got into TV. So then I went back to school. And that took me a while. I did not know what I wanted to do. I just kept going through different majors. And so I was working as a waitress. And I said, I got to figure out what I'm going to do because I'm almost a senior in college. I still really haven't picked a major. I kept switching. And so this one friend of mine, Tim McDaniel, said, why don't you go into broadcasting? And it was like a light bulb just went off. And I was like, yes, that would be perfect for me because I like attention. I'm the baby of the family. In fact, most people in the news business are either babies of the family or only child. Oh. So it's funny because I think we just crave attention and like it. And so I changed my major, and it took me 5.5 years to get through college because I had to do an internship and everything. But I got a job right out of TV or out of college right in TV, and then I just worked my way up the ladder. And
in the Dakotas?
In South Dakota. I probably could have gone further because I got to be an intern with a cameraman and everything. So I was a reporter, so I had a lot of material to put on my tape back then, and which a lot of people don't because they never get to really be on when they're interns. But I was basically a reporter already, so I got to have a lot of experience. And so I saw this job open in South Dakota, and I was like, oh, I'll get that one because it's, I know people there. But I probably could have jumped further for my first job, and then I got that job, and I worked my way up to weekend anchor, then to main anchor. And then one day I got a phone call. I got an agent, and because you kind of needed one back then. And he called me and he said, hey, I've got this place in Florida, Cape Coral, that wants you to come down. I go, well, what is it for? The morning anchor? He goes, oh, no, it's the main anchor job. I'm like, really? And so I flew down to Fort Myers. I'd never even heard of Fort Myers. I'd heard of Fort Lauderdale and everything, but
course,
being
spring
up there,
break.
yeah. But, it just wasn't, our worlds were a little smaller back then, and so I came down here and I loved it. And I was so afraid. Okay, this is I'm going on all these different tangents, but I was so afraid that I was going to screw up the interview, because I would get really nervous and kind of hyperventilate because I would just get so nervous. And
nervous
so,
or just overly excited?
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think I'm very excitable. As you can see, I start talking fast and everything. And so I'm excitable in anyway. And so I was at the Hilton Garden Inn in Fort Myers, and I got a newspaper back then when you could get newspapers, and I ran up and down the stairs. There were 3 flights of stairs. I would run up and down, and I would come back to my room and read the newspaper out loud to control my breathing, because I was so out of breath. And that's what I felt like every time I got nervous, because I was, I guess, hyperventilating, someone told me later, because I breathed it all in and then I didn't have any room in my lungs. So I would really blow out the air and then read the newspaper out loud so I wouldn't screw up my interview, because I thought, what if they fly me all the way there and then I
Did
blow
somebody
it?
tell you this trick, or is this something that you
I just
kind of
came up with
deduced
that
yourself?
Yeah, I was
Wow.
like, well, if I'm out of air, how can I practice controlling my breathing? And so I just decided I'll just run up and down the stairs and then come back and read out loud, and
That's
it worked.
brilliant.
Yeah, so it worked.
That is
I got
so
the job.
brilliant. So you moved from Dakota, came down to Cape Coral, and was that with Waterman?
Nope, that was with Fox 4
Oh,
in
you said that.
2002. Yep,
Okay.
And so I did that for 5 years, and at that time I was in my mid 30s, and so I felt like I was pretty marketable, and my agent was telling me, you have interest in Dallas and all these different big markets, so Fox 4 wanted me to sign another 5-year contract, and that seemed like eternity for me, so I said no. So it ended ugly at Fox 4 because I did not want to stay, and then they ended up they let me work a little bit longer. Than they said, well, we're just gonna, since you don't want to stay, we'll just pay you out for the rest of your contract, but you can go home. So it was kind of an ugly ending to, something. And we had just won, we had the best ratings in that July, and everything. So it was kind of.
They wanted to put the golden handcuffs on
Exactly.
you. You said no.
Yeah. So it was just kind of embarrassing, but
Yeah.
it was like an ugly way to end. And then at that time, it was in 2007, 2008, when the recession hit. So nobody was hiring. In fact, most TV stations decided to put people on furloughs and everything. So it was horrible. It was a worse time to get out of the industry. And so we had just sold our condo, luckily, because that was right before the market dropped in real estate too. And so it was around Christmas time. So my husband said, well, let's just go back and regroup, because we couldn't really stay in Fort Myers because the rent, as you know, in season jacks up. So here we had just sold our condo, and we're like, we can't just stay here and wait it out, because rent is $3,500 a month now, and so we drove all our stuff back and to South Dakota. Yep, and rented our old apartment. Was still a different. We were on the third floor instead of the first, But, so we stayed there and got to spend Christmas with our family. And then I went on some interviews in Denver, and then I just decided to stay there, because I talked to the news director in Denver. And I said, if I can work, what's better, to work in a small market again or to just keep waiting? She goes, it's always better to keep working. So I got a job as a main anchor back in South Dakota, where I started, which was depressing. I cried every day, and I'm not a crier, but I was just like, I ruined my career. I should have stayed at Fox 4. What was I thinking? And then I'm, in South Dakota, and I just was like, oh, and I had the best of friends, and South Dakota is beautiful, but it was just like I felt like I ruined my career. So fast forward, I'm about to turn 40, and I get a call from my agent, who I still had, and he said, there's a job in South Bend, Indiana. You can have the main gig. And so I was like, well, I'd really like to have something new before I turned 40, because I was going to have a little crisis, that I had gone back in my career. So we ended up moving to South Bend, and I was only there for a year and a half, a little over a year. And we started flying to Fort Myers again on Christmas every year, because we realized we missed it here. So here we're in Fort Myers, and I was on the plane. This is a fun story. I was on the plane, and I talked to a lady who had recognized me. And every time I come back, it was kind of bittersweet, because people would be like, "Oh, Krista, we miss you," and I was like, "Oh, why didn't I stay?
Yeah.
I'm in this horrible situation."
Salt in the wound.
So I was on the plane. This lady recognized me, and we were talking, and she said, "Well, are you going to move back to Fort Myers?" And I thought, I don't know, because my agent had reached out to some of the news directors, and there really wasn't interest. And a lot of it's just timing. There has to be a female position open for for a female to come back. So I go, probably not, but I'd like to come back to Florida. So I looked up in the sky, and there were these beautiful clouds that day. It was December. You know how it's so sunny in that time of year. So I said a prayer, and I said a prayer of thanks instead of gimme, gimme, gimme. I was always like, I need this, I need this, I need this. And I was just, thank you, God, for just letting me experience Florida, because I had such a good memory, and people would always say nice things every time I'd come back. And so I said a prayer of thanks, and I'm not kidding you. It gives me goosebumps telling you this. The plane landed, and I turned on my phone, and there was a text message from the news director at Waterman. He's like, I have a job if you want it. Can you believe that?
Oh
I
my
mean, it was
God.
so crazy. That's
Man.
my history in TV. Yeah.
That is extremely unbelievable. So before we get back into TV a little
Okay.
bit, just tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
So now I'm working for McQuaid & Company, a real estate brokerage. In fact, I love TV as it's changed anyone watching knows it's changed. Journalism has changed in the last 10 years, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
But it's just not the same as it used to be. And so people are throwing their opinions in, and it's just not balanced like it used to be. And so I struggled with that a little bit, but also I could not stand working till almost midnight every night anymore. Here I am in beautiful Florida. My favorite time of day is dusk. And where am I at dusk every night? Sitting in the station, either doing the news or about to do the news or something, And my break was 7:45, so who really wants to go to dinner that late? It was just a weird situation. So I wanted to get off the 11, and that was my goal. I would have stayed there, but they said that wasn't an option. So I texted Tiffany McQuaid because she just has always been very innovative. And I thought, well, maybe either I'm going to have to sign another year at least with ABC and stay here, or maybe I'll find something else. And I was running out of time because I thought the last time my contract was up, they forgot. And so they contacted me the day before. Well, this time it was 3 months before. I'm like, no, I need time.
Yeah.
I need time to figure out my life, And so I texted her and I said, do you think you'd know anyone down in Naples maybe that could use my skill set, And so she said, we should talk, that would be great. I said, I really don't have time to talk. I need someone, I need kind of to figure this out ASAP. So she said, let me call you tomorrow. So she called me the next day and she said, I think you should come work for us. And I said, that's what I was hoping you would say,
Wow.
So that was a Tuesday night that I texted her. By Friday, I was down there checking it out, her facility and office. And by Monday, I told the station I wasn't going to resign. So that's how fast it happened. It was very bam, bam, bam. But I just felt in my gut that it was time for me to go. And it was just,
You had mentioned there was opinions being inserted.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
Oh, yes.
Is it kind of what we're thinking? Like a little bit of bias, maybe
It
not.
is. And I will say for local TV, it's not like the
National.
networks. But the problem is we have very young producers who are giving people like me, the anchors, what to read, and you're only as good as your weakest link. So I'm reading everything, but sometimes it's on the fly. They're giving it to you. And there's just ways you can say things. Here's an example. Ron DeSantis says that these jobs will, save people money or something like that. Ron DeSantis claims that, you change one word and it sounds like sarcasm and, and just, so I think
true.
sometimes you can change the words depending on what you want, and I was.
How you want the story to be perceived.
Exactly. Just a little word change. You're still speaking the same sentence.
100%.
But it's got a tone now that it didn't have before if you just state the facts.
Or maybe just leave a little bit out.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
We've seen
Yeah.
some of that recently.
Yeah, I had a lot of just issues. And it wasn't, like I say again, locally, you hear a lot of chatter in the newsroom, so I knew that there were a few of us that didn't believe the other way, but they really strive, I will say locally, to keep things balanced as much as you can, at that level. But
what about if you're an investigative journalist at the local level? Like, are they telling you what you can and can't? Remember, we like Fletch. Remember back?
Yeah.
Like, can you go pick your story? Do you have to report, here's what I'm working on? And they say, well, I know that guy. I don't want you touching that story.
Yeah.
How did that work?
No, I mean, they try to stay out of a lot of stuff. Like with advertisers and everything, you can't insert, the news is one thing, the advertising money is separate. So they try to keep that separate. And, if someone does something wrong, we still have to go after, they have to
Isn't
go
that
after.
the main job of the
investigative? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just to investigate. It's not to go after.
Well, yeah, but
it's-
highlight.
Get to the bottom of it.
Get to
Yeah,
the bottom
get it
of
to
it.
the-
So they're not trying to make someone look bad, but if they already look bad, they're not going to cover it up either.
No.
That's what it is. So.
Right.
Is there any stories that you can share with us in any of your investigating reporting that might be good for social media? I'm just cutting through the bullshit here.
I wasn't an investigative reporter, so that's what I never.
Well, when you were up in South Dakota, did you do any investigating?
No, I never did. I that was not my thing. I don't like investigative reporting because I don't like that. I don't want to
Have
You
your
don't
head
wanna
on
be
a swivel?
Fletch.
Exactly. I want to be the happy person.
Yeah.
I want to cover like happy stories, so I never
true.
I never wanted to be that person. I think there's a person that kind of enjoys that, but I didn't want to be that person. Even if they deserved it, I didn't want to be that person. Plus, I like to do stories that you can churn faster. because I'm a procrastinator in general. So that's what I loved about the news business is there was no time to procrastinate. You had to get it on the air during your deadline. So every day there was like 7 deadlines every day, and so I liked that because I didn't have time to procrastinate. Investigative reporters, they'll give them a few weeks to do a story, and that just drives me crazy because then I'm like, oh, am I going to wait till the last minute? We had what we called sweeps pieces during the ratings time that we had to do that were supposed to be special and more in depth, and I didn't like doing that because a lot of times I would just wait till the last minute. So I like doing the happy notes, like happy news. When Mario Lopez showed up at the station, I got to cover that. All the fun stuff I got to do. I enjoyed that.
Did all your peers know that you were the one that liked the report? Because I thought it was a news industry thing. Like, if it bleeds, it leads. Like, they promote negative news. I love the fact that you're wanting to push out. There's not enough of that.
Yeah, in fact, I started at ABC, Positively Southwest Florida. So we did that. I don't know how many years it's been going now, but that was one of the things we started just because it was so negative. And that's what people would always say is it's so negative.
Yeah.
And shortly after, even on NBC, then they started Stories to Share with Sean Martinelli, who does a great job. And he just does happy pieces, and you just need some of that. But it's, people say they don't like negative news, and nobody does, but people are the first ones to watch,
Consume it all.
like the plane crash,
Yeah.
It's like.
That's a perfect, numbers
Exactly.
don't lie.
Yeah, it's
That's
like, they'll say that because I think people say that to sound intelligent, like, I don't want to listen to bad news and I want to only, but as soon as it comes on, who's the first one, up there is the
100%.
person that just said that,
Which is funny because there's neurological data. We've seen this studying in sales that says human beings are 31% smarter in a positive frame of mind. So it would only stand the reason that the more positive stuff you can put out there makes everybody smarter.
Yeah, right.
Just all the way around, I think it's a good business.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, he mentioned that we've studied a little bit of the human emotion, and we just talked about this. Typically, news is fairly negative. From a human emotion standpoint, what's the most difficult story you've ever had to cover?
Oh,
in
when
25
someone
years?
dies, or or a child being abused, or things like that. And I know when I worked in South Bend, there was a horrible case of child abuse. Everyone knew, and it was funny because they knew that I loved animals. So I swear our producers would always give me the sad dog, like if there was a dog abused, because I could sell it because I was so upset about it.
You were tied
But
to it.
I think that's what people liked about me, that I was like not faking it. And I think a long time ago, one of the, because of course news has all these consultants telling you what to do, and he said if it's the majority of people feel the same way, you can say that's a creep, or something. If it's a rapist, that's a creep that did that to a child, so you can say
Right.
that. And I think so many people are so afraid to say things like that, but I would if it was true, because 90% of the people believe the same thing. That something
Jay,
like
I
that.
don't have a problem calling out a builder. If he's a fucking asshole, I say he's a fucking asshole. I got no problem doing that.
And I'm sure they call you a creep too.
Yeah. You creep.
Clay Miller and we did the morning show on NBC2, and we got the Church Giggles once, and it's on YouTube because he was the worst. And he knows
We're gonna clip that in
if
there.
you started to giggle at all, he would just lose it. And so this one time we just could not keep it together, and we were crying, laughing, and so that's embarrassing, but it's funny too.
And once it starts, it can't stop.
No, you can't.
We've had that a couple
Yeah.
times.
We finally tossed to a commercial because we couldn't handle it anymore. It was bad.
You got to think though, it makes the people at home laugh too, so it puts
does.
them in a positive
Yeah.
mind frame.
100%.
Well, that's one thing I realized when you mess up, or if something, a lot of things would happen. One of my biggest pet peeves is me looking at the wrong camera when I was, and that was not my fault, but it looked like I was an idiot. Like I'd look at this one, and as soon as I'd look over here, then they'd take the other one. So then you'd be playing, wrong camera constantly. And so that would irritate me. But I started to just realize that people think it's funny, and so sometimes we call it the tour of the studio because we had these electronic cameras, but someone was controlling them. So I'd be talking, and pretty soon it would swing way over to JP, just standing there. He's like, oh, we're giving a tour of this, we'd say that. We're like, oh, thanks for the tour of the studio today, and just make light of it because it is what it is,
Yeah.
And I think the people that get so stressed out if they mess up, or, they're the ones that look dumb.
Yes.
But if
Yeah.
you just say, oh, I can't talk today,
Yeah.
or something like that, because it happens. Sometimes you just can't even say it's just bad. But you just have those days.
I got to ask you, because you're talking about the little stuff behind the scenes and the giggles and all that. You're probably going to hate me for asking
That's all right.
this, by the way. probably going to sound like a pompous ass. I swear when I watch the news, the local news especially, and it seems to be everywhere, but much more concentrated in Southwest Florida. When there's a report out in, let's say you're out in the field doing a report and there's a new high-end department store, and let's go talk to some of the shoppers. We've got this well put together little old lady, and then bang, it's Pigeon Lady from Home Alone 2.
Yeah, it's like the characters of the
it's
it's
there
table
a-
number 9 from Star Wars.
So I have to know: is there a game behind the scenes where
You'd
they
think
say,
there
"I'm going to
was,
find
right?
the most
Yeah, you'd
messed
think there
up
was.
person"?
No, and it would irritate me too because I'm like, that to me is laziness out of the reporter.
Lack of unawareness.
Well, unawareness and just like, let's just find the first person we see
Yeah.
instead of, finding normal people that are there. Yeah, I agree. It's,
Doing a cold read, I think it would be important.
yeah. I mean, sometimes we're like behind the scenes going like, what? Are they drinking?
We
Or
are
what? I mean,
too.
yeah. It's like, what's going on with this person they interviewed, So, yeah,
Yeah.
it was, that's just, I think that's laziness is just, if you find someone that is like that, then, I mean, if that's the story, is that type of person, nothing wrong with that, you
Right.
know. But if you're at a high-end mall and it's someone that has nothing to do with a high-end mall, that doesn't make sense. That your man on the street, that's what they call it, the man on the street. Just interview somebody.
The man on the street.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize this as a reporter or as an anchor. It's everything's like we want it done yesterday, so it's just you can barely read the script. It's very fast paced.
So you're taking the first body that you can grab your hand.
probably because they're probably like, we need you to be live at 5, so hurry up and get somebody. We need to have an So
Right.
it's just.
It
It's
happens
hard.
like that.
It's hard. It's stressful. I feel for the reporters. I only reported, like I said, a couple of years. I was the main anchor for most of my career, which was very rare and very lucky because I didn't have to go out and do all that stuff in the heat and the snow and hurricanes. I was in the nice, safe studio most of the time, so I was lucky. But I know what it feels like, and I
Yeah.
felt it for the reporters.
I've always wondered that. Sorry, I've always wondered that. Like,
Yeah.
if there was just some game behind
You'd
the
think
scenes,
that would be like a game. Who could get that?
or like just some weird population control. Like, we don't want more people moving here, so this is what we're going to show them. It looks like.
Right. That's the behind the scenes. Yeah. I'm not supposed to talk about that.
I've
sorry, go
watched
ahead. I'm
those,
just kidding.
and I feel that I have manifested, like I've thought about how I would act in front of a camera should I have that opportunity because of those moments. So I've anxiously awaited an opportunity where there's a street reporter where I would be in front of a camera. I already know how I'm going to act going in front of that camera because of reasons like that.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, I didn't want to be, you got to be prepared.
It'll be
Absolutely.
good. I can't wait till someone interviews you.
I can't wait either. And I hope it's for something positive.
Yeah.
So how excited? So you're fully out of the. There's no consulting. No.
No, nothing. But as you know, social media
Well.
is basically reporting. I was showing them today, I'm sure you saw P. Diddy's
Yeah.
the raid. Well, if you go on TikTok, which I'm not on TikTok very often, I have an account, and I figured they've already captured all my information,
Yeah.
so I might as well just stay on.
Same.
So anyway, but and there's all these news wannabes, tons just scrolling about P. Diddy and all this stuff. It was crazy, but it's so weird how everything has changed. And you can be almost a journalist without being in journalism these days, which is sad, but it's true. Because if you've got the followers, you'll do better than someone that went to school, sadly again, but that's the case, than someone.
Social
It's true.
media is allowed the kind of David versus Goliath to come.
Yeah.
Like one post could change our business overnight.
Right.
Overnight. So on that, to dovetail on that, we saw the phone book and Blockbuster Video kind of fizzle their way out. I think radio advertising-ish, and I got friends in radio. I know AJ would probably kill me for saying this, but I don't listen to terrestrial radio anymore. I really don't. I have my podcast I listen to. I listen to my Sirius. How far down the road do you think before news? And
I don't know. I say within the next 5 years, you're going to see a big change.
I do
I'm
too.
not sure what it will be. The ad dollars aren't going to news like they used to. Therefore, the quality is not going to where it used to go.
Of course.
And when you can get things for free if you find someone that's actually credible and doing a good job on social media, why would you watch the news? And plus you can get it like this.
Instant.
you know, instant. So that's one of the things too. I think that it's
I
definitely
feel
a
like there's a
change.
lack of trust
There
now
is.
too. So
And there are a few, I don't have the names off the top of my head, but there are a few social media networks now that are just, I think one's called Just the News, something like that, where it's just facts and nothing else. Because whether you are right or left, you are getting the right opinion and the left opinion. So where is the middle? What is the truth? Because no one's giving that anymore, or very few are, I would say. Very few are giving, because even, like I said, if you're watching Fox, it's because you want to listen to that, and if you're watching CNN, it's because you want to listen to that. So what do we know
They're
is
biased.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what do we know is really unbiased news now?
I
it's so
agree
true.
with
You're watching what you want to
You're
see
watching
and
what
what you
and
want
that's
to
even
hear.
on your phone. They know because of our algorithms. You know, so one time not long ago, it was the anniversary of my dog dying, and I saw a post, so I watched it for less than 30 seconds. And then the rest of the night, it was like dogs dying, like their last wish, you know, their
in your
but
feed.
in my feed, because they know I can't even pause on anything anymore. You know, you can't even, I mean, everyone knows you can't talk about it in front of your phone, but even if you pause on an ad or something, you're going to get it into your feed now. So it's really hard to find what is the truth and what's being fed to you. And even when you're trying to get information.
That's interesting, Krista, that says that. So a lot of people that we talk to in our circle about, you know, because we're trying to grow our social platform, and they always talk about, well, the algorithm likes this, the algorithm likes that. And I say, I think the algorithm's designed for the consumer, not the creator, for the simple fact
sure.
that you said, if you don't like what's in your feed, you go up in the search bar and type the next 3 things that you love: working out, travel, real estate. And I assure you, your feed will be littered with
Exactly.
those 3 items.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the news for a second. When you had a good night on the news, for whatever it was you're reporting, you were just on, you're on the camera on all your spots and everything was just perfect. How did they measure? Was there, like, we have KPIs in social media. How did they measure that for you? Was it quarterly or is it nightly?
It was during sweeps, which
That's the only time that you'll get data back.
we got data back every night in the last 10 years or more, probably longer than that, but we call them overnights. So you get every 5 minutes of but here's the catch. It has to be registered. Now, there are some companies that register cable and everything, but you have to watch for a certain amount of time, almost like your algorithm. You have to pause for a little bit and to make it count for that 5 minutes. So you want to make sure. That's why you got to catch them in that headlines. You got to get them to stay past the 5-minute mark so you can get into the next quarter. So you get credit for the first quarter, so it's very complicated. But Nielsen is antiquated because you still get, like, will you let me know can you tell me what you watched, and things like that. It should all be based on what you're actually watching, not what you remember. Point in fact, when I was in South Dakota, there was a dominant ABC station every night. It wasn't my station, but they were knocked off the air from a lightning strike that hit their tower, and they still won the night because perceptionally people thought, because they had to write it down, they thought they probably watched ABC that night, and they still won the rating that night because, and so it's gotten much better because there is a way to track it, but it still is a little weird, the way, because you only, with Nielsen, they only track so many houses. So sometimes they might be, they might love Krista, and then the next time around they might not. So they maybe never watch ABC or NBC or whatever network, so it all depends on who they're tracking, because they want to take a sample base, but the samples are, different. And people that know they're being sampled want to look smarter, so they'll probably watch things that they might not watch. You might not watch, my favorite show, Married at First Sight, because that's going to make me look stupid or something, Right. But, I'm going to watch the news, but which news, and just because you want to, if they're tracking me, I want to seem very intelligent and not watch the stuff that I normally watch, so.
But you're doing a little bit of the news-ish in your new role at McQuaid. Why don't you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, I do a little weekly, it's 1:30 because that's all you can put on Instagram. So I just talk about what's going on in Southwest Florida that week. And now I decided, I said, this would be kind of fun if we do a cocktail. So let's just go to a restaurant and start with a cocktail. So for the last 2 weeks, we start with a cocktail. I'm like, hey, have you ever tried this at K Rico, or wherever I'm at?
You could be like the Dave Portnoy
That's
of
what
cocktails.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
One sip, everybody knows the rules.
I think that would be fun. So I thought, well, let's start with a cocktail. Maybe we'll go to some of the local restaurants in town and and check them out, and just go to a different place every week. So
All right. So what's your top 3 favorite restaurants?
Oh, wow. I don't want to offend anyone, but
Believe me, if they're watching this, they don't get offended. Believe me.
Bruno's of Brooklyn.
Oh,
Fort Myers.
he's building a new facility
Yes.
too. Okay, I want to talk to because I love them. I think one of the allures with Bruno's of Brooklyn is
the
the
size.
intimate setting.
I know.
And I love them.
Yes.
I've been to their place several times in their house. I hope that the success continues in the bigger place. I just don't know how it's going to go.
I know. And I love sitting at the bar.
Yes.
So I'm hoping.
And you're talking to them.
Yeah. Maybe they'll make the bar. I need to talk to Cal and,
Yeah.
and Jen and ask them about that because maybe they'll make the bar bigger.
Yeah.
That was always, and like corners, because it's kind of hard if you have 4 people, you feel like if you're on this end, you never talk to the person
Right.
over there. So it'd be nice to have corners, where maybe like he's in the middle. I don't know.
I agree with you. I love that
I love
restaurant.
that place.
All right,
yeah.
give us another one.
So that's a great one. I love anything like on 3rd Avenue South, or 3rd Street South, 5th Avenue, 3rd Street South. I love that. I love.
Have you ever had the Turtle Club?
I've never been.
Oh, you gotta
I
go.
know people tell me that all the
Okay,
time. I've been
well-
to Baleen, but not the Turtle Club.
Okay, well, Turtle Club is more like the Bruno Brooklyn of waterfront beach dining.
Okay.
It's very intimate. Mick Moore and his father own the hotel there. It's only 18 rooms, and they have rooms across the street. But then they have that restaurant, which is still not open. We're going to do a podcast there next week prior to their opening because they were crushed from the
Yeah,
hurricane.
I know they've been. I keep watching the updates they've been putting up on social media.
And we went in there, and what I have to give him credit for, Mick, the owner, is everybody's wanting this place to open back up. But he knows that if everything's just not the way he wants it now, it'll never get that way. And so while he's closed, I'll take my lumps now. I'm going to get it perfect. And so they're going to be opening, it's either first or second week of April. You have to
Great.
go.
Yes,
You have to
That'll
go.
be. Maybe I'll do my cocktail there.
You have to. He would be, and he's
Yeah.
on social media too, so
Yeah,
you'd like that.
I'll reach out to him. That'd
Great
be fun.
family.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I love the D'Amico family too, with
Yep.
Campiello's and Continental. I love their restaurants. Yeah, they're all just everything's good around here. It's fun. Del Mar. I mean, anything on 5th is just fun too. But it's now that I work in Naples, it's kind of hard to drive down here on the weekend. I just don't want to drive. It's.
I
So my
know what
husband-
you're talking about.
To just drive anywhere right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right now is horrible. My husband used to work at the Arthrex. We live in Fort Myers, and he worked at the Arthrex.
Here on Immokalee?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, he worked at the one in Ave Maria.
Oh,
Immokalee
okay.
Road out
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
So he had to drive all the time, and
That's
then
a
I got
hike.
it's a hike, and then I got the job in Naples. So I'm thinking, oh, we get to finally move to Naples, and he switched to the Fort Myers Arthrex. So now I'm doing the long commute.
Where's that one? On off
It's
of
over
6
by
Mile?
off 6 Mile by the Twin Stadium.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so he's over there now. So yeah, so it's I try to use it to my advantage, like listen to things while I'm driving, but sometimes I just want to listen to music and then I feel like I'm wasting my time driving.
Listen to Glass Guy podcast.
I will be from now on, yeah.
Krista, have you considered, or has McQuaid considered, because we're going to do this year, you see what type of effort goes into even getting this ready to a point to do an interview with
Right.
someone. And by the way, we're still actively trying to earn business as well. And then this is the easy part. We still got to edit. We're going to bring in a full-time individual. It's going to be sit here. And basically, when we're not doing a podcast, it's going to follow me and Jay around with a camera for half the day, and the second half of the day is just edit and produce for the following day.
Right.
And you watch maybe Gary Vee or some of the other
Yeah.
guys that have a full-time individual. Would you ever see yourself getting to a point where you see a benefit in that? Are you pot committed to creating content to help build your business with the real estate?
Yes. I think I'm the full-time person
Right.
right now,
Yes.
because that's what I'm doing. So, but to follow people, it's a lot. Yeah, as you guys said,
It's a lot.
It is, and it's a risky investment, because you have
If you're not committed.
if you're not committed,
You have to
But,
be
yeah.
committed.
But I think, that's what I've been doing for the last year is just helping our agents get on social media because, as we've said, that's the way to go is just to be on there, and be present. And TV and real estate are very similar because you're trying to build your brand. You guys are trying to build your brand. That's how I was always trying to build my brand and volunteer, which I love doing, but you want to get out in the community so people trust you and like you, and then they'll watch you, which will in turn give ratings points. Well, you want to get out in the community so people will trust you and like you so you can get business. That's the difference is I was getting rating points, which were my business, I guess, in the long run.
Yes.
And you guys want business, so when they think of Glass,
Yes.
they call you guys because they
Yes.
know you.
Right.
Yeah.
Dale Carnegie, I don't know if you remember Dale Carnegie, the sales coach. He used to say that if two people were going to do business together and they didn't know each other, that they would have to have on average 7 to 10 interactions before they were able to build up enough rapport to trade your money for our goods and services.
Right.
7 to 10 interactions. We've noticed over the last 7 years with, our output of, we do about 3 or 4 pieces of content a day, 5 days a week. We're getting all these innocuous touches that Carnegie was talking about, and we end up doing business with customers either on the first or second meeting to exactly what you're talking about, because they already feel like they know us. That's why the people would go up to you in the grocery store and like, Krista, if you were selling something, they would have bought it from you. Why?
Right.
Because they trust you.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's why I think a lot of people get caught up in the vanity of the social, like the view. Like, of course, we want everything to go viral. I want my phone to go viral.
Well,
every
and you
day.
want to look good and sound good,
Of course.
but it is. You're right. The vanity is really the hurdle, because
you only need one view to sell a Port Royal house. You don't need a million
right?
views.
The quality.
So that means it isn't the best.
Yeah. So it's and who they don't need to buy it from a beautiful. Everyone thinks I've got to look my best, and
No.
you got to look put together. You don't want to look disheveled.
Yeah.
But nobody's perfect, and so I keep telling my agents is the beautiful realtors that are 20 years old. No one stops and looks at that, but someone that maybe looks a little different and is just unique looking and just has a presence about them that is pleasant.
Yep.
That's the person you're going to stop to, or somebody that does something quirky and funny. Those are the people you stop on.
1,000%.
You got to stand out.
Unless you're looking for a date, I guess.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
Then it might be a
so-
little bit more discerning.
Yeah.
I am addicted to the social media, but I also understand the power of it. And do you know our business here, not my shower door next door, but this one, the My Architectural, is 100% built on the back of social media. We haven't, to this day, 7 years, haven't spent $1 on advertising.
See.
Now, next door, we're probably at the tune of about $1 million a year on advertising from TV, radio, print ad. This was kind of more of a case study here. And it's, if you marry the first 7 years of next door versus here, it's not even close.
Yeah.
The social media has allowed us to pour gasoline, and we can be a lot more creative too. Maybe there's some things that are triggers for us, like with new architects and builders. So we can kind of make these funny reels, kind of poking fun at these problems that we see without really calling anybody out.
Right, yeah.
So it just makes people aware.
Yeah.
And so,
but what you just said is you haven't spent any advertising dollars, and that's where the TV news business, you're just another person who isn't spending any advertising dollars with them, like My Shower Door, but they're losing all that revenue, and even, elections used to be the big moneymaker. Oh, if we can just, luckily my contract is up right before elections because I know that I'll get a big boost, because all the money's coming in. Not anymore. They're going to social media too. They're all on social media. So that money
point.
isn't as much as it used to
think
be,
about
because you don't see you still see the commercials, but remember back in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was just, you're bombarded
it'd
with.
be starting right about now, right? All the way through November.
Yeah.
That's
So, because we
hilarious.
have primaries coming up in August, and things like that. And so, so it's just a different beast because of social media. So I think social media is good. I was going to ask you guys a question.
Yeah.
Because I'm struggling with this. How do you stop when it's integrated in your work? How do you shut it off? I've been trying to turn my social media off at 8:00 at night, just because I feel like you just get swept up, and pretty soon an hour's gone, and you're just like, where'd that hour go? I could have been working out or something, So I'm trying to figure out how to, because it's part of my job. How do you, and it's part of your personal life, how do you shut it off and have a personal life?
I think we got two answers here. So Jay,
because
you go
I don't
first.
think Keith's quite figured that out
Yeah.
yet.
I'm full on addicted. I love it.
Yeah.
I try and prioritize it. Listen, even though I work, till 5:00, I'm still working when I get home.
Right.
I'll answer emails, I'll check social media stuff, but I'll try not to let it interfere with my family life. So if I'm sitting there and I feel like it's a little bit too much, then I've kind of developed a little trigger to take myself back and, okay, I'm gonna take the phone and I'm gonna just set it off on the side for a few minutes.
Yeah.
But it's difficult. I mean, even especially with, like, I have a teenage daughter. Thankfully, she's not on social media, but
Wow,
the
that's
phone,
amazing.
The phone
Yeah.
with her, the phone with my younger one, and then my wife. And we're the typical. We sit across. She's sitting there, and I'm sitting here, and we're we're shooting reels to one another.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
It's like, instead of talking, we're just
I know,
shooting
yeah.
reels, like laughing, and you got to see this.
Yeah.
So it's very addicting, and I can see why someone like Keith really has a tough time, because he's a very creative mindset, so he's always looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
So it's tough. We haven't quite figured that out yet.
It's hard, right? Because you want to like make sure you're on top of things. So you want to make sure you're seeing things that are fresh,
1,000%.
Yeah.
A lot of the content that I do, I kind of guerrilla market, where I'll just find out the top 20 things that are trending, and then I just repackage that with whatever message we're trying to get out there.
Yeah.
One of the differences I would say to people is, are you consuming too much, or are you also creating? I create a lot, but to create a lot, I also need to take in a lot.
Yeah.
I would say finding a balance is good for a lot of people. I'm not one of those type of individuals. I'm like I want to be extremely successful, and I'll obsess over it until I get to wherever benchmark I set for myself. So I don't look at it as I do have these points of reflection going, oh my God, am I spending too much time on here? And then all of a sudden I'll get a message like, hey, will you come bid on this job? I go, nope, and maybe I'm not doing enough. And I'm right back in it. So
Yeah.
I don't shut it off.
Yeah.
Now, with that, I will say the amount that I've spent on social media, I have noticed I don't even have cable at my house anymore, which is wild. Netflix,
Yeah.
one of these, but I don't even watch a lot of it. I might turn it on, but I'm most of the time on my phone.
Don't you feel like you're just constantly multitasking? My husband gets
Yes.
after me because
Yes.
we were watching Shogun for
Yeah.
example, and it was in subtitles.
Yeah.
And so we did, because I like to like check things while I'm watching
Yeah.
a show or whatever,
Yes.
maybe shop, whatever
Yes.
I'm doing,
Yep.
do multitask. And we both looked at each other. We said, "Oh, there's got to be an English dub for this, right?"
Yeah, sure. There's no
There
way
was.
we're reading this.
So we
as
did
well.
the English dub because I said I can't anymore. I can't do subtitles. Plus, I mean, no one wants to just sit down. I feel lazy if I'm just sitting and watching something. I want to be folding clothes or getting the dishes put away or something, so I can listen, but I can't just sit and watch something anymore.
I can see that. I can see why you'd say that. I think everybody's different on that.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. It's, whatever you enjoy.
It's whatever suits you.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. I think just personally, I was thinking, man, I think I started to think, I'm not working out as much as I used to. I think it's because I'm sitting on my phone for 20 minutes and then I could have done something in that time, and
I will say, when I go to the gym, I go to the gym 5 days a week. That's what keeps my depression and anxiety
Right.
at bay. I don't bring my phone into the gym.
Yep.
As much as I want to, even for the music, I don't trust myself enough.
Yeah.
I'm in between sets. Oh, let me see this. And before you know it, 20 minutes have gone by. I'm like,
Right.
what a loser.
that's
So
kind
I won't bring it into the gym.
yeah.
So now they just say it without looking at you.
Here's one thing that's interesting. I was telling you off camera when we first got in here, we started this podcast back here probably 2.5 years ago. We weren't even posting them. What we were doing is we identified builders and architects we wanted to do work for. And we'd ask them, hey, we'd love to have you on our podcast. Throw you a bunch of softballs. How'd you get in the industry? Where do you see the industry going? Mm-hmm. And what we found was it would end up triggering this kind of almost reciprocity. But where else can you talk to another individual where you haven't looked at your phone? How long have we been on
right?
here?
Yeah.
30 minutes, 40 minutes. You haven't looked at your phone once.
Right.
And when you're in front of the camera, usually you're telling the truth, okay, in this type of setting. So I get an hour of your time.
Yeah.
I get
Smart.
truth telling. And if we're going to build up enough rapport to do business, this is going to be the environment that we have our best chance at.
Yeah.
And then when we edit it and send it to you, now I get to tap into that vanity effect. Like, oh my God, I love that song. And look at this. And they send it to all their buddies.
Yep.
If you're not doing a podcast or being on camera like you are now, you're missing out for the future business, because it's not going to be long, like you said, where everybody's doing business off their phone. If they're
Right.
not already
Right.
doing that,
Yeah.
it's not going to be that much longer.
Yeah.
TV, I feel like all these are kind of going down.
Mm-hmm.
And the socials going up, which begs the question, why would we want to stop going on it then? If that's
That's
where all of
true.
our
That's
business
true.
is. As professionals, we're seeking attention. Where's the attention? If social media stopped tomorrow, Jay and I will find where all the attention is, and then we'll figure out a way to get it there. But right now, it's social media.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's
I
not,
agree.
there's
yeah.
no close second.
Nope.
And there's no cost,
That's what's so crazy. Yeah.
right?
You have
That's
to.
yet.
Not yet. Remember?
Who knows where that'll
Do you
end up.
follow Gary
Could
Vee?
be like cable TV.
Yep.
Do you
Yeah.
remember like 3 years ago? I think it was right during COVID. He did a post. There was a guy. He was on a skateboard and he had this ocean spray bottle.
Yes.
And he was singing.
Yes.
What song? It was.
No, it was
Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac,
Mac.
yeah.
Fleetwood Mac. Dreams. Okay. Ocean spray. For however long they've been around, they have enough data to quantify that one post which was unsolicited, took off every bottle of ocean spray off the shelves in the next 2-week period because they had been selling it for, let's say, 100 years. They had all the data.
Yeah.
That one post wiped the shelves because everybody was recreating it. It just had a huge marketing buzz. And he wasn't even paid to do that. Now, he ended up getting, I think they gave him a truck and a year's supply of ocean spray or something. But that just goes to show you that I can go up against Coca-Cola. We can go up against all these big dogs with the social media platforms.
Right, for sure. Because people, well, and that's the thing is I think authenticity. I want to listen to you guys because I like that you're just you, you know, and that's, I think when you're trying to be somebody else or you're going to get a skateboard and some ocean spray and try to recreate that or something, that doesn't work and people can see right through it.
Yes.
And that's what I keep telling all of our agents is just be you.
Yes.
You don't have to try to be somebody else, you know, just be you, be authentic. And that's hard for a lot of us. I mean,
Why? Why do you think that is?
I think because we're just judgy and you see all the beautiful people on social media. So you think, oh, I can't be them, you know, but you don't have to be beautiful. You just have to be authentic, you know, and I think that's the key is just to do that. Remember back in, I'm older than you guys, but when you first got your first answering machine or, you know, and you were like, that doesn't sound like me, you know, that sounds horrible. I sound like a little baby.
Message.
Yeah. That was yours. I used to always put music in the background.
Oh, that's good.
Like, hey, you know, like a cool song or something. And
that's
I'm
funny.
not here. I should have been a DJ probably, but yeah. So
That's funny.
Yeah,
but,
then
you know,
they had those tapes. Remember those?
That's
right. But nobody likes the way they sound. Nobody likes the way they look at first. But I think you just get used to it. And that's me too. I didn't, you know, I was so critical of myself on TV, but I mean, I saw myself over and over and over and I didn't care anymore because I was so used to seeing it and hearing it.
Did you have a mentor in that space? Anybody?
Patrick Nolan was probably my biggest mentor back then, you know, because
That was
and
at Fox.
He was at Fox, yep, and he still is a great friend of mine.
Still to, is he still?
He's still around. He's doing yoga all over the world and just having the time of his life.
Wow.
And
He's not in the news
Nope, he's not in
industry.
the news either. Yeah, there's not many of us left that started, you know. So
Does there seem to be like a career lifespan like that's kind of average?
Or a ceiling?
Like
yeah, I mean, I think if you're an anchor because you get paid more to be an anchor than a reporter or a producer, and so there's a longer lifespan. But I think the hours just drag after a while. It's too much, you know, unless you have a great schedule. But even, you know, the morning show, you have to be there at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's great because you're off at 10:30, but who can, you know, you're going to bed at 6 because you're so tired.
That's tough.
You know,
Yeah.
and you're falling asleep on the weekends because you can't stay up past 7. So that's a hard schedule, even though you have a nice shift in a way if you're not sleeping. But, and then the evenings are great. I did a lot. I taught spin, I taught yoga, I taught aqua aerobics in the mornings. I think it was more, you know, I was definitely more fit when I was on the news because I taught all these classes every morning. I was super busy all up until I went to work, and then I did my news job, you know. So I got a lot done in the day, but I never could do anything at night. Like my friends, honestly, I blame my friends because at 3 o'clock, I was just getting to work on Friday, and they'd be starting the group text, hey, let's ditch out of work early and go have happy hour. And I'm like, I'm just going to work, you know? And so
drag.
I blame them because now I can go to happy hour whenever I want, but you know. So
And now you're going to start your cocktail review.
that's right. I'll do a
right.
cocktail review. Whoever wants to be first, I'll.
Maybe Barstool's will
Yeah,
sign you up.
exactly. Yeah, right. I
That'd be
know.
cool.
I'd love to have that gig, right? Pizza.
I
Have you
man.
been following Miss Peaches?
100%.
How can you not?
Well, I know it's so addictive. Tiffany just got us all Miss Peaches sweatshirts.
Oh, really?
That support the animal shelters, yeah, and everything. I'm a huge adopt, don't shop person, so
He's raised
So
last I
much
just-
money.
It was over 300 grand the last I just
so much
saw.
money and so much awareness. I love pit bulls. I don't have pit bulls, but I love them, and I always feel like they've gotten a bad rep. You know, so I think it's great that he's showing that you can have this loving dog. It's just bad owners. You know, and so I love it. Yeah, we're all.
Do you have a
addicted.
dog?
I have 2 rescues, Cabo and Tuco. They're little Chihuahua Terrier, like a Jack Russell kind of. They look like.
Cool. Cool.
But yeah, so
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm a huge. But the first dogs I had were from a breeder. So, but I think after working with the Humane Society and all the different shelters over the years, and there's nothing wrong with if you want to have a purebred dog, but just donate to a shelter then.
Yeah, good
'Cause
point.
I have a lot of friends that have purebred dogs, and they do a lot for shelters. So, to get the word out, you know. So I think that's fine. You know, I'm not going to judge you no matter what kind of dog you want, but just to always help out if you can.
So are you helping out with that right now?
I do.
currently?
I try to volunteer and do different things. I usually MC different events for the shelters. And
You are everywhere on your feed. I mean,
try
everywhere.
and I also I do on my main Facebook, my professional Facebook page, I share dogs that need to be adopted. I try to do that just at least once a week. Share a dog that they're trying to get adopted. There's a dog right now. I was just telling Tiffany I'm going to go over and shoot a video. His name is Brody from Domestic Animal Services in Collier County, and he's been there for 3 years. And so they were trying to find him a place to stay at Christmas. And all these people were like, oh, no, Brody didn't have a place because they showed him. But then nobody's adopted him. So he's still looking for a home. So I thought I'm going to go do a video and just try to promote that. I think, if you have any kind of a platform, if you can do something good with it, and animals are my passion. So,
that's cool.
Sounds like you're going to have a third dog.
I can only have you. That's another story. I can only have 2 in my neighborhood. I went to Jamaica 2 years ago, and I went hiking. I always raise money to bring all these third world countries supplies because they needed the dogs were getting maggots just because they didn't have NexGard, and it's very expensive. So I raised more than $3,000 to get NexGard, and I took it there. I got stopped by customs and everything, and then
What is that?
It's just a pill that you take to keep the maggots off you and the ticks and fleas and things, but they're really bad in Jamaica, the maggots. And so
No way.
I went to this refuge that had 200 dogs that they've saved from the streets because there's a lot of street dogs in Jamaica. And they were running. I got to hike through the mountains of Jamaica and go to a waterfall, and it was glorious. But this one dog just was attached to me, and everyone's like, you gotta bring that dog home. I'm like, I can't because I can only have 2 dogs. And so he didn't have a name, and they tried to name all the dogs, and so he named it Dakota since we were from the Dakotas, and so everyone's like, you gotta bring Dakota home. Well, I have some friends that said, we'll pay to get Dakota here if you can get him adopted. So I worked with the Cape Coral Animal Shelter, and we brought Dakota here. And he was there for a couple months, and no one was interested because they thought he was this crazy wild dog. I mean, he's not even big, but they thought since he was from Jamaica. So I said, can I just bring him home? I felt like I needed to ask since they were taking care of him. I said, I just want to bring him home and see what he's like. So he adapted to my 2 dogs, even though he was bigger and everything, but he just did everything they did. He knew to sit for a treat, and he was this outdoor dog, and he waited to go outside. He was potty trained already just because it's their instinct to want to go on the grass.
Right.
So I shared pictures, and within the next couple weeks, he got adopted right before I left ABC7. So I got to do a story on it. But and he's living his best life. He's so fat, and he loves sitting on furniture. That's what I noticed with him too. Think of it, you're sleeping on dirt all your life. So it was probably the first time he ever sat on a mattress. But he got up on my bed and he would not get off. He just loved it. But
couldn't believe it.
Living his best life. He has a huge yard in Cape Coral and has another little dog they adopted so he could have a buddy. And
did you know the people that ended up?
No, I didn't.
Have you met them since?
I've gone over there and we brought our dogs and had a little play date and everything.
Oh, that's cool.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
they're really happy. But I would adopt a dog again from another country if it was for me, but that was so stressful trying to find it a home because all of a sudden I got very protective. What if they don't understand? What if they beat him or something? And just if they don't understand that he's a wild dog and he needs all these needs, and they they totally understood him and he never had a problem, and so it's been great.
There's a vetting process when they adopt, no?
Yeah, for sure. And they go through a lot, and
especially bringing from another country.
Yeah.
I mean, you really put yourself out there to do
well,
that
and it
too.
costs a lot to bring. That's what's sad too. It costs almost $3,000 to get a dog over here.
just to get the dog back.
Yeah, because you've got to get special. He's got to, have a special crate. We had to pay for a new crate in Jamaica. We had to get someone to escort him to the airport. It had to be, and we barely made the cutoff because they won't fly if it's hotter than 80 degrees, which I'm glad because the dogs could get overheated in the cargo area.
Right.
And so it's a lot. It's a big process because you have to buy him a plane ticket basically. So.
I guess I was unaware.
And then someone had to
of
go
it.
to Miami to get him, and I couldn't go because I was working on the news, and so it was like this big process. But we had all these different people volunteering. It just became a big community effort.
That's cool.
It was
Well,
fun.
Dakota should be lucky to know
Dakota's living his best life.
Yeah, maybe he'll meet Miss Peaches one day. That'd be cool.
Yeah, right? It's like Miss Peaches. It's true.
Where can everybody find you, especially if they're looking for real estate anywhere in Southwest Florida? Are you
Anywhere in Southwest Florida. I just got my, I haven't gotten my, I guess I have my license. I haven't hung it yet.
You passed the
I
test.
passed the test just
Yep.
yesterday.
Congratulations.
Yes.
That's huge.
So I'll be
First
working-
time, too.
That's right. First time. I was so nervous that I wasn't going to. I know a lot of people don't, which is no big deal. I mean, but I just wanted to personally.
Of course.
But I'll be working with McQuaid and Company. And yeah, so you can just reach out there. Florida News Chick. That was my original Instagram handle. And then I changed it to Krista Fogelsong just to be more authentic. And no one could ever find, they're like, I don't remember Krista Fogelsong. So Florida News Chick is easy to remember.
That's on Instagram.
It's on Instagram and Krista Fogelsong on Facebook and Krista Fogelsong on LinkedIn. And
This is where we get most of our business.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. Less than 3% of everybody on LinkedIn will ever post anything.
Yeah.
And so by arbitrage, you're the real estate guru just by putting. So I would suggest if you're already posting it on the other platforms, just screenshot it and put it on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Because there's just not as many people posting on that platform. You get a lot of professionals, people that are reading. LinkedIn used to be just job postings and resumes, but now they have their news feed. And what we've seen is you get a lot of decision makers, people looking to do business. It's almost like a digital newspaper.
Yeah.
Where did you see the video of her on the motorcycle?
I
At
didn't see
Sturgis?
that. I saw.
was that a picture?
I saw a story of that you.
Oh, you read the
did
story. That's what it
Yeah.
was. What was
Yeah.
that?
Well, Sturgis is right by where I went to high school. So
Could you literally hear it?
yes,
when,
I feel
no matter
like,
where you were?
I feel like you can when it's biker week. Yes. And
I've
you
heard
know,
people say that.
when we were in high school, we would work. It was a blast. My mom probably doesn't like it, but we would work and we would drive over there and just work at all the little. We couldn't serve alcohol, but we could work at the restaurants and everything. Just dress, like biker chickie.
Yeah.
And
A lot of money to be made there.
It was lots of money. Yeah, and so it was a blast, and we'd have our fun and go to concerts, and it was smaller actually back then. I was there for the 50th anniversary, so that was back in the 89, 90,
Wow.
yeah, 91 maybe. I'm not sure. It's gotten much more commercialized, just like many things do.
Yeah.
It has expanded, so they have all these campgrounds now where all the big, you didn't have like huge acts come at the time. Just every once in a while you'd see somebody famous there, but now it's crazy. But it's fun. It's fun. I love doing stories there because I would always do the story every year of what do you do in real life, because everyone's dressed like
You're
a
a
biker.
doctor,
And,
like-
they were always doctors and lawyers because they have to have money to have a Harley Davidson, And then we rented one time and went up through the hills. And the Black Hills is this hidden gem that people don't know about. Very beautiful. It's where Mount Rushmore is and Deadwood. And so there's a lot to do on a motorcycle. So it's really pretty. And that smell of the pine trees, you just don't get in a car, you see things when you look up, you see everything. It's just beautiful to be on a motorcycle. So I get it. I can see why they wanted to be there. It's a great place.
I want to go to Mount Rushmore. Jay and I got a job actually off of LinkedIn. We've done
That's
two
right.
houses in the Yellowstone Club in Big Sky.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could smell the pine there. That
Yeah.
was unbelievable.
Well, and you could see the stars so much easier because you don't have, what is it, all the lights from like the
Right.
Light
city. And
pollution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
it's literally, pictures don't do it justice out there. You're right, it's breathtaking.
Well, maybe because I have some friends from South Dakota. If you're looking for glass specialists, these are your guys. Quick story about Mount Rushmore because I got a story for everything.
yes.
So being in the news business, we got to go to the top of Mount Rushmore. I did it 3 times.
What do you mean? Wait, you scaled up?
There is a little hidden walkway that brings you to the base. You have to be with a park ranger. So I did it twice because they were putting fireworks up there. But then my friend befriended a park ranger, so we got to go, my husband, my friend and I, and her boyfriend, on a private tour of Mount Rushmore. They have it gated off with locks, and you go behind that, and then you go up a trail, and you get to the base after you kind of are climbing right where you see all the rocks below, and there's a ladder
No
that
way.
you have to go. It's just like straight up forever, I feel like, this super long ladder. And then you get to between Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt's heads, I think that's where it is. And back there, Gutzon Borglum, who created Mount Rushmore, wanted to have this Hall of Records behind there. So there's a cave, that's where they put the fireworks when they store it. But there's an area that's like flat back there. They look like they're side by side, but they're like kind of a
Offset?
yeah, and there's a big area back there so you can stand. But here's the fun part. There's a stake 5 feet tall on George Washington's head that you can't see from the ground. And they tie you to that stake so you don't fall off his head. But I have pictures of me and my friends up there on top of George Washington's head.
Wow.
So we were just like bebopping around, going between the heads, And the head, is huge, But I had nightmares afterwards because I thought, what if I would have twisted my ankle,
just roll.
just like roll? You're way up there, And so It was a great experience. It
That's
was crazy.
unbelievable. I had no idea. So what about the ladder going up the back of that? Are you harnessed in on that as well?
Nothing. You're just going up and praying that you don't like trip. You're holding on with your
gotta get
hands
out
really
there.
tight.
We got to get out there.
Well, here's the deal. So
Do they stop doing that?
yes, you know why? Because Greenpeace, I hate it when people ruin it for everyone.
Oh, no.
Greenpeace went up there, said they were just going to get a tour, and hung a banner over Abe Lincoln's face.
Oh, geez.
So now nobody gets to go up there because they deceived someone and did that behind, and it was a lot of fun. I was up there a couple times. I think I have a Fox 4 or Fox 7. I was Fox 7 and a little hard hat sitting up there, I have a picture of that too. So
We'll
so
crop
cool.
that. We'll put McQuaid Company
Yeah.
in there for you. There you go. Helps a piece of real estate.
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. That was I got to do some great things in TV. I mean, being the president, I never got to interview a president, but I got to be in the presence of many presidents, Clinton and Bush, both Bushes, and so there's a lot of fun things I got to do. So it's a great experience. I got to meet my teen idol Rick Springfield because I convinced my news director at Fox 4 that we should do a story on 30-somethings meeting their teen idol, because Rick was over at Fort Lauderdale, and luckily my news director at the time was a fan of Rick Springfield. So I go, I think we should do this story, and Rick Springfield's over there and he'd be perfect, and he's like, really? Okay, all right, well, if you can set it up, go ahead. So, since 86, Rick Springfield and Corey Hart were on tour and Rick got laryngitis, so he had to cancel, so I missed that concert. So I never got to see him. So here I was in my 30s and I finally got to meet him, and that's on YouTube. And we were like little girls giggling because, like in 7th grade, because we're like, like I can't breathe, and everything.
That's great.
But he was the sweetest person and just.
Well, they say
nice.
never meet your heroes, so he
was great.
That's cool.
He didn't disappoint at all. He was wonderful. So
That is so cool.
yeah, it was fun. That was a fun story. So I've gotten to do a lot of fun things. I got to meet AC/DC. I got to sing with them at the Barbara B. Mann on Highway to Hell. Yeah, and because
Wow.
Cliff used to live in Gulf Harbor, and I lived in a condo there, so I knew some people.
That's unbelievable.
We did some shower doors for Cliff.
That
right?
is so cool.
Yep. So I got to do that, and just a lot of fun. It's a different industry now, but it was a lot of fun. Back in the day. So.
I have a feeling that you're going to have continued success in the real estate game because of your personality and your demeanor. I have a feeling you're going to have a lot more cool situations like that come up.
I hope so.
There's a lot of eclectic human beings around. I mean, our 20 years in this area here, we've met some really cool people.
Yeah.
And I'm certain that that's going to happen to you as well.
Well, great. I'm glad you heard it here first.
Yes. This is breaking news.
Breaking news. Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to be successful.
Yes. It's not a question of if, it's just when.
It's when.
When.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. All right. Thanks,
Well,
guys.
congratulations on
It's
passing
been
your
so fun
test.
getting to know you both better.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Now we'll definitely follow closer. with each other.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate the time that you've given us today and
problem.
sharing your story. And we're anxious to put this podcast out. Well, thank you, Krista.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having me.
Krista.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, cool. Jay, kill it.